your production becomes archaic. The same you bring it to the economy. So these are the points I just highlight. You can interact with them later. How I think we can reshape the future of some sectors in Kenya. One, of course, is high-targeted manufacturing. High-targeted manufacturing, high-productivity manufacturing. That can only happen again through capital flows that are unrestricted. Number two is deliberately fostering entrepreneurial spirit. The biggest problem Kenya has and has been having for years is patronage stifling entrepreneurship. Patronage, that the biggest employer in Kenya becomes the politically, the occupants of political positions. And because we know they are not entrepreneurs, so what are they doing? We allocate capital where it should not be. Because when you become a politipreneur, the money you get, the profits you get becomes possessions. But economies grow when you convert possessions and wealth into capital. A normal entrepreneur, that's how they think. You start a bank called equity. A normal entrepreneur, how do you think? On how you can scale it. So when you make money, you actually plow it back. Before we know, you've expanded to Tanzania. You've expanded to Burundi. You've expanded to any other place. You are a Dagote. You may be held by policy, that's fine, but you are an entrepreneur. You wake up in the morning to think about creating. So what does Dagote do? You manufacture, you start with importing fertilizer, you make money. After making money, you set up a fertilizer company. Then you go to oil import. Then you make money, you set up a refinery. You see the sequence. This person is using their profit, not as possessions. Maybe in their bank account, maybe hata hawana pesa. But they are using this possession, this wealth, as capital to generate. But when money falls in the hands that are not entrepreneurial, the wealth becomes possessions. And when we do politipreneurship, when you are already not an entrepreneur, you not think like one. So you'll make money, stack in the banks, stack it in sacks for a rainy day politically. But this money, if it was in the better hands of an entrepreneur, this person would have made this 1 billion. They would already be setting up a factory to add value onto sweet potatoes to export to some other countries, employing 1,000 people. So that's how now this distorts economic incentives. When money falls where it should be, it becomes capital, and capital stimulates, and capital catalyzes. Capital flow, I will not talk about it, I've already done so. Energy is the last point I want to have. Energy. Because all these points I'm talking about manufacturing, high tech, but also any other associated. And I'm talking about it because sectors that are scalable, sectors that you don't rely on market prices. You know, when an economy is trapped in primary production like agriculture, you are trapped in something called market prices. Oh, sell your maize in market prices. But a person manufacturing a phone, they determine how much they sell to us, not based on market price, because you can differentiate your products. In farming, you can't. Anyway, that's another point for another day. Kenya currently produces around 3,000 megawatts of, roughly, 3,000 megawatts of energy. 3,000. We are actually not serious. We are not even near serious. South Korea, in manufacturing, 50 times is generating. The installed capacity is over 50 times that of Kenya. Yet our populations are the same. Just think about that. Energy is the bare minimum when it comes to manufacturing and high-level technology. It's the bare minimum. It's the least people can ask for. It's the least an investor will ask for. So 3,000 megawatts of energy, a country with over 50 million. South Korea, over 50 times. It's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that their GDP per capita is also our multiples. In my opinion, this is what I've been thinking. You know, when we talk about AI, a country like Kenya would benefit from AI on one segment. Data centers. Data centers. We become a hub of disease. Why? Because Kenya has a nice story of selling green energy, which is abundant. But what stifles, nini huwa inanyonga economy ya Kenya when it comes to power? We go back again, patronage. When we talk about production of power in Kenya, it's Kengen. It has maybe over 70% of market share. The other people are called private power producers. Tell me any of your uncles who do that. Or your village mate who do private power production and they sell to Kenya Power. Tell me one you know. Who you frequent with in a normal restaurant. One. That since independence, private power production is a reserve of people who serve in government at the highest places. And then they set our electricity price. Because Kenya is based on something called take or pay. That which is conceptually was a good thing to make power, to make private sector invest in power. Take and pay is what? I signed something called a PPA. PPA is an agreement that I'll be producing 100 megawatts of power and I'm selling to you. And you either take or pay. Initially it was good to make me see value for my capital. But we need to liberalize generation of power in Kenya. It is better we have power we don't know where to take than have a deficiency in power in Kenya. Because all the other variables will be determined by how much capacity of power we have. Generative AI consumes around 8 times power than normal search engine. Generative AI, the one we all use here, generative, Gen AI, ile unauliza maswali. They use 8 times power, the background of it, than the one normal search engine like Google. 8 times. So it means the demand for power globally now has only one direction. One direction called headed north. Going high, going up. And this is not likely to change. And our government policy must be so deliberate now that let's liberalize these PPA things. That ukiingia in power hivi, the best way to secure your future is to sign a PPA with Kenya Power, with arbitrators based in London, so that even if any other government comes and they want to revise these terms, their heads, their legs are tied. So we can continue paying political rent even after the occupiers of the office are long gone. And then we continue regulating our own economy. We must liberalize power production in Kenya. Let's produce so much power. These laws we have, after you produce these megawatts, you have to sell to Kenya Power. No, we break it down. If an industry needs 50 megawatts, let them produce without selling to anyone. They use it. Because you're already deficient in power. We produce as much power as possible. And we become a center of disease because we have a nice story we can sell. We can even tell Microsoft, we can tell Meta, Amazon, and all the rest, we give you land. We also give you resources. Produce your own electricity. Set up your DCs here. Those terms will benefit Kenya better than just sitting around with 3,000 megawatts of power, an economy of over 50 million, and you're talking about manufacturing. Which one? One dam called Grand Renaissance Dam in Ethiopia. One. They are producing over 5,000 megawatts of power selling to all of us around. And they're in the process of making another one of 3,000. Let me tell you guys, tutakuwa tunasoma Ethiopia kwa gazeti. Why should we make this happen when you have the opportunity to change the fortunes for Kenya now and in the future? We must break these PPA things and we liberalize power production, because power is the biggest handicap that Kenya has in terms of production. And my opinion on power again